Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome aboard, everybody. How's you doing? I hope you're having a good day. We've made it to the halfway point here of the week on this fine Wednesday. Glad to have you along. Appreciate you. Looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn today, along with Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star and our good friend Rick Bozich as well. The Big Ten football media days continuing to roll on. NFL has begun. That's right. Training camp is out and about. So football definitely with a crossover of basketball as the TBT also continuing last night, but it will continue without Assembly Ball as they were knocked off by Eberlin Drive. And I mentioned yesterday that don't expect that to be an easy game. Eberlin Drive is a veteran program that has been in the TBT since its inception. So they know how to play. They know what it takes. And it's not often that new teams are going to have that great of success in this tournament, because it takes some, I believe it takes some learning on how this thing operates and everything else. But good run. Good to see. It was great for Indiana at least to get to play in front of all their home fans for 3 games for Assembly Ball, I guess I should say. And to have it at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I think the fan support was good for the tournament, good for this region, and good for future games, I guess, TBT action to have here. As I know that when we were talking with Kyle Guy, he mentioned that he had spoken with the powers that be about getting moving maybe the championship over. So who knows? We'll certainly find out in the future how that rolls on. But it has been fun watching that so far, in my opinion. But we've also got the Big Ten football media days that are happening right now, and our first Olympic scandal. Man, this one is cracks me up, but we'll get to that in a second as well. But I mentioned the final score last night, Eberlin Drive knocking off Assembly Ball 82-79 in a close game. But it will be Eberlin Drive that goes on to the next round. And that is in the region is to be determined. So that they have not determined that yet, with this year's championship being held, I believe, in Philadelphia. So we'll see what's up next. Let's see. The Ville, they play tonight, I believe. Yes, this is Wednesday. So they will be playing Team DRC tonight. They edged Sideline Cancer, another veteran program, in their last outing, 71-69. Team DRC beat Team Fredette, Jimmer Fredette, 79-74. So that game down in Louisville and Freedom Hall tonight. So if you're looking for something to watch there, Team Colorado will be taking on Mean Street Kansas alumni, as Kansas got by Massachusetts and Colorado got by the Wichita State alumni team. And also in other action, it was the Houston alumni team over Team Challenge, as they will move on. And Kentucky alumni team, they they destroyed Marshall's alumni team 95-66 They have kind of just made it through there with ease so far. So we'll see how that goes. Was it La Familia? Yeah, a little. Is that a little mafioso retrospective there for them? But that's who's left in the TBT for you. But that's okay. Basketball is about wound down, and that's good because football is about to wound up. As I mentioned, the media days happening right now for the Big Ten in Indianapolis. We'll actually be coming from there tomorrow. I thought about doing that today, but I was like, there's no point in doing that both days. So, but we'll be up there tomorrow with the show. And we should be speaking with Indiana coach Curt Cignetti, I believe, in the first hour. I'll have to look of the program, but I'll have to check with that again. But we'll have Curt Cignetti tomorrow up at Indianapolis, and we'll see who else we can pull in from there as well. So looking forward to that. And as today, I believe UCLA and USC, the two of the new members, are speaking up in at Big Ten Football Media Days, the coaches. Tomorrow is Indiana, as I mentioned, and I believe Purdue is tomorrow as well. So it will be interesting. I think Ryan Day has already spoken, and man, you need a scorecard to keep up with who's where now, and or not who's where so much as, well, that too, but who's on what, who's on deck, who's on first, what's on second. Brett Bielema from Illinois, he has an Iowa tattoo, and he was asked about that yesterday, and he told the story that at 19 it seemed like a good idea. Iowa farm boy and all of that. He said, I had no idea I would be the head coach at Wisconsin and Illinois one day. So, but there's that. Some chatter on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and thanks for all of you guys talking about last night's game. Mike says Assembly Ball was down like 14 at the half, came back to send it to overtime. Yeah, too much, too little, too late. I mean, what a great charge, but not overtime, but the target score for the Elam ending was set at 82, and what a comeback. But and that's what makes that exciting. I think that's where it's just as fun as racing a clock is racing a time. It's like when you're a kid. And someone said that recently, and I didn't think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where that comes from, man. We're playing 21 or whatever, but it was 21. But yeah, had to set some boundaries. So that's just a deal from your old childhood. But looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn today and getting his thoughts on Big Ten Football Media Day and his thoughts on the ACC with Florida State and Clemson. Both of those have been mentioned as potential landing spots in the Big Ten. Not that the Big Ten is necessarily looking, but when yesterday, as Mike spoke, Mike DeCourcy talked about the SEC doesn't really have a need for him, but that's because Clemson is in South Carolina. Well, they already have it. South Carolina. They have a team in South Carolina at in the University of South Carolina. They already have a team in Florida with the University of Florida, and Florida does not want them in the SEC. South Carolina does not want Clemson in the SEC. So you've got that. The Big Ten has no one in Florida. That would give them a bigger presence on the East Coast and a presence in Florida. So you've got that going for you. So that's just some thoughts. While the Big Ten is not looking to expand, doesn't mean it wouldn't happen if the opportunity were there. And I keep wondering about Notre Dame, man. They're just going to hang out there, and I think they're going to get to the point to where they have no choice but to stay out on their own, which may work out just fine for them because they can put together a schedule that's worthy of any conference with the teams that they play now. I mean, they play, I don't know what, at least three Big Ten teams, I believe, and they're already scheduled to play like 5 ACC games. So they've never had a problem scheduling games. You know, Indiana's scheduled to play them in 6 years from now. Purdue plays them this year. It's so a schedule is not a problem for them at all, in my opinion. And more of a reason why they can still call their own shot. It's amazing because it's not that they're having such great success. They're not, but they're the only program that can still, well, they're the only one that has to, but I was going to say the only program that can still live on their name from the past. But if Alabama were sent out on their own, they probably could. But to see them to succeed on their own like that in today's environment, it's a little impressive. So Bill says, IU basketball every day is hump day. Okay. Talking about the game last night, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it is definitely hump day, though. And we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you with us and looking forward. Hopefully, Dylan Sinn's joining us. I just, realized it's with it being media day. I hope that he will be joining us. But we've got tons coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And we'll be back with it right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator. This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Rusty Gator.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dylan Sinn joining us on the program today. I was having a little problem getting you on there, Dylan, getting you on the screen. How have you been, man?
I'm good. How have you been, Jim?
Oh, I can't complain. Nobody wants to listen to it. Dylan Sinn, of course, from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. I've just been enjoying this unbelievable, amazing weather for July. It's been crazy.
Oh yeah, it's been really just moderate. It was so hot in June, and these last couple of weeks it's been really nice. So yeah, got to be enjoying this as we get toward the end of summer here, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, finally, basketball is not come to an end yet. I was talking in the first segment about, the TBT continues to roll on. It just does so without Assembly Ball, and Purdue's team, of course, knocked out by Indiana, as well as Butler's team is no longer playing. But basketball still going a little bit, but football is officially started, I guess, with Big Ten Media Days going on right now in down at up at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. We'll be there tomorrow. Are you planning on going down at all?
Yes, I was there yesterday, and I will be there tomorrow. So very excited for that. Excited to hear what Coach Kurt Signetti has to say, and just kind of update the progress on IU over the first couple months of the summer as we get closer to fall camp here.
Yeah, so being that you were there yesterday, I'm assuming Purdue spoke already, Ryan Walters.
Yes, they did.
What is the state of affairs for Boiler fans and Purdue football?
Well, they're feeling a little bit slighted that they were picked dead last in the Big Ten. They were picked to finish 18th, and they are not they're not happy about that. They think that they have a better team than that. I do too, quite frankly. I don't think they're going to finish in last place. And so that was kind of one of the main themes of yesterday for them, was having a chip on their shoulder, basically saying, we're not listening too much to what people are saying, but we know what's happening around us. And so we're going to prove some people wrong and use that kind of as fuel for the fire. So I think that was pretty interesting, just the way that came out, as that happened right the day before Big Ten Media Day. They obviously released the poll. So I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. They have a very, very difficult schedule, which they also talked about. They play Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon within a 4-week span. And they also have Notre Dame in the non-conference schedule. So it's a very difficult schedule for Purdue. And they're going to have to win a lot of games against the other teams. They're going to have to beat Wisconsin or Illinois or Minnesota, or they're going to have to win those games in order to make a bowl game. So, but they also talked about having opportunities to leave a legacy was what Ryan Walters said. If you win one of those games against an Oregon, against a Penn State, against an Ohio State, you become a Purdue team that everyone remembers. So they're embracing the tough schedule as well.
Yeah, I have kind of just come to that conclusion with a combination of the schedule that Purdue has, it is brutal. It reminds me of what Indiana has had to go through for several years, starting out for 5 out of 7 years to open your season against a Big Ten opponent. Yeah, to play in the Big Ten East on top of that. It's like, man, you're starting the season with one arm behind your back, and now Purdue is going through a heavy dose of that. That may be something Indiana has to deal with next year because of how sweet their schedule is this season. But it's got to sting to have a team like Indiana picked ahead of you, who they've got a brand new coach and are going to be in their first season. A team that went 0-8 last year. Or I know Illinois did better than Indiana because they beat the snot out of them, but they're down. It's like Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, and maybe Maryland. I'm trying to think who else was down in that bottom four. It was like
UCLA. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, because they have a new coach too. But I mean, Purdue beat Illinois for example. With Illinois, Purdue beat them by 4 touchdowns last year. Right? They beat Minnesota by 3 touchdowns last year. Minnesota and Illinois were picked 12th and 13th. So I think that's why Purdue feels a little bit slighted. They feel like they won 2 of their last 3 games last season. They finished the season strong. They kind of had an identity as a run-based team, which is interesting because they have an air raid offensive coordinator. But they found an identity toward the end of the season. And they bring back a fair amount. They bring back 3 offensive linemen, 3 starting offensive linemen. They brought in 6 guys with starting experience from the transfer portal at that position. They bring back a quarterback, a running back, one of the best defensive ends in the Big Ten, one of the best safeties in the entire country. And then they have a transfer class that ranked in the top 30 in the country, kind of like IU. So they feel like they did plenty of work in the offseason to really shore up their weak spots, and they don't feel like they're going to take a step back from the 4-8 season they had last year. And so, yeah, I'm interested to see, because they have opportunities to get to a bowl game. Like you said, they don't start out with a Big Ten team this year. There actually are no Big Ten games in week 1 this year. That's the first time in, I believe, 7 years that's happened. They talked about that yesterday.
There should not be.
Yes. That's what Tony Petitti said, was that they are apparently kind of moving away from that. So they're going to try to go back to having it toward the Big Ten games toward the end of the season, right? And so, but Purdue starts with Indiana State. They have Oregon State on the road in non-conference. I think they should be able to win both of those games. Then all you need to do to make a bowl game is go 4-5 in the Big Ten. Obviously, those games against Ohio State, against Oregon, against Penn State, those are going to be tough, right? They are. But there are winnable games in that schedule too. And if they just go to a bowl game against this schedule, I feel like that's a successful season. It keeps the momentum going in recruiting. That they've had some pretty good momentum in recruiting, especially in the high school ranks. I think that will continue. They have their NIL house in order, maybe not quite as well as IU, but in the same ballpark. And so I feel like there are opportunities for them here. And I don't think they will finish in last place. Let's put it that way.
And so who would you put in that would finish last?
I think it's one of 3. It's Illinois. It's maybe one of 2. It's Illinois or UCLA to me. I think that UCLA is. I know that UCLA is the newcomer and they won 8 games last year, but this is a totally different roster for that team. They have a first-year coach who has never been a head coach before, who's never been a coordinator before, as far as I remember. So. I think Deshaun Foster will get that program going eventually. I think he knows what UCLA needs and he'll get them going. But it's a year 0 for him. Chip Kelly left late in the cycle, and that's why they kind of had to scramble for a head coach. And so I do think that they're going to struggle in their first year in the new league. I think that Illinois, it's kind of the same situation as a Purdue or an IU, where there's reasons for optimism. I could see them being better than people expect, but I also think that they're in that same position as Purdue, where they have a tough schedule and things could kind of bottom out if they don't go well. So those would be my 2 guesses. And I think Purdue is probably a little bit ahead of both of those teams.
And pivoting on that UCLA game is one that not just me, but that I have, I stare at this schedule every day on that poster for Indiana.
Yeah.
And out of their first 5 games, they're all home games minus save the UCLA game in week 3, but a very winnable road game, in my opinion, for Indiana if things play out like we are expecting them to. And if they could go to Los Angeles and win in the Rose Bowl, there is a very distinct path for Indiana to a 6-0 start. And shocking as that may sound, it is a reality. And now you've got the linchpin game in that schedule as a team picked to finish at or near the bottom of the conference. So that makes this very doable for Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I do think that that's part of the reason the schedule is so exciting this year for Indiana, is because it's not quite as difficult as a normal Big Ten schedule is going to be. You avoid Penn State, you avoid Oregon, and so I do think that that's part of it. But also, UCLA is down. That's one of your that's one of your Big Ten road games. That is a game that in a lot of years is going to be a tough one. And if they're a down team, and you're going to have 2 games under your belt at that point against Florida International, against Western Illinois, you should be 2-0. You should be feeling confident at that point. You've settled on a quarterback. Your defense is settling in. Your offense is starting to move. And then you go to the Rose Bowl, and I think, like you said, I think they can win that game. I don't think UCLA is going to be particularly good this year. I don't know if people have really kind of grasped that, because they're kind of being lumped in with these newcomers as well. It's the newcomers. It's Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. Those are 4 high profile programs. Yeah. And UCLA's won at least 8 games each of the last 3 years, but they're entering a new era, right? And so I do think if Indiana's going to get them, this would be a great year to do it. Then you have Charlotte. Then you have Maryland at home. And Maryland is another team that I think is going to struggle this year. I mean, they're moving on from Talia Tagovailoa, who is there for 5 years. And they haven't found a new quarterback yet in terms of a guy that they're really, really sure on. So that's another winnable game. And that's why we talk about this schedule for IU the way we do, is because it's not just the teams they're playing, it's the years they're getting those teams in, right? I mean, even Michigan, that is a game that no one is expecting IU to win, but you're getting Michigan in a year where they're coming off a national championship. They lost almost everyone from their offense last season. They have a whole new team. Obviously, the defense is very much intact, and it's going to be very good. But they have a first-year head coach. It's an easy schedule on paper, and easier than most Big Ten schedules are going to be. And then you factor in that some of these teams are in first year of new head coach, are coming off of first year of a new quarterback, that kind of thing. And you feel like there are opportunities here. It's the same thing with Washington, right? Washington was a great team last year, but they're starting over. So there are winnable games in this schedule for Indiana, and I feel like that we've talked about it before. This is an opportunity for them to really make a big splash in year 1 under Kirk Cignetti.
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. It's not because of this just magical hope that fans have that we're talking about here. It's because of the schedule and the interworkings of the schedule. Who, how, when, where, and all of that stuff are playing into this. And that's why I look at it. I'm like, wow, there is legitimately a path to 6-0 for this team. But that doesn't mean they're going to go 6-0. But it is very, very, it's in the taking for them. It's there for the taking, rather, for them with that UCLA game in week 3. But you can't, ignore teams like Maryland, even though they don't have Tagovailoa anymore. And you'll be at Northwestern playing on a wonky stadium kind of a deal. You can't get sidetracked by that stuff. And we're getting way ahead of ourselves, or I'm getting ahead of the game. But you know what? That's part of the fun to look at what could be, because if they're 6-0, if they can actually legitimately get to 6-0, that will do so much for that program, for Kirk Cignetti, for, we talk about, look at the recruitment of Juju, the number 1 quarterback in the 26 class. He's been on a visit. That does a lot. But then when you have proof in the pudding, boy, that just adds to it. And now all of a sudden you're in the discussion with a lot of different people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where it would kind of validate all of the work they did during the offseason. I mean, that's what Chris Netti has done since he came into this program, is he's tried to make it run like a big boy football program. That's what we've seen with all these changes to the game day atmosphere in the offseason. They're really trying to elevate the game day experience. They're trying to elevate the practice facility. They're trying to they changed up the uniforms ever so slightly. So they're trying to do all these little details that are going to make the experience better for fans and just make IU a little bit more confident on game day. And then if you can win games on top of that, it kind of validates that and said, see, this was what was missing. We always had the opportunity to do this. All we had to do was get a guy in there who really knows what it is to win at the highest level. And I think that it might start to snowball from there. But again, as you said, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but it's July. That's kind of the point of July, right? I said it yesterday. It's talking season, right? This is what it is.
That's great. I love that. Yes.
Right? Like it's the time for getting way ahead of yourself. Everyone's 0-0. You know, you're the optimism is boundless. You feel good. And it's time. It's fun to look at the schedule and play the schedule game and say, well, what if things break right here? What if Michigan is actually mediocre this year? What if we go in there and beat the Wolverines, and then we play Ohio State, and it's a ranked on ranked matchup? You know, like it's really fun to think about that kind of thing. So.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you're right. That's exactly it. It is talking season, and that's what the coaches are up there talking about. I mean, there's not a lot that's going to come out. There's not a lot that comes out of media day. This is more of an opportunity. This is two things. This is an opportunity for the networks because they get all of the teams and all the players and all the coaches in one place. They do the headshots. They do these clips where they talk to them and this and that, and then during the year when they have one of their games, they use that stuff during the game, et cetera, et cetera. Also, it's an opportunity for media, for us to talk to guys that we don't get the opportunity to talk to during the season, the upcoming opponents, et cetera, and things of that like. And it's also an opportunity. It's a first opportunity to talk to Curt Cignetti on the breakouts in a while. So it serves a good purpose. And then they go to work. Everyone is asking. I think camp starts basically on August 1st, thereabouts, for pretty much everyone.
Yeah, we should be getting a schedule for them pretty soon here. I know Notre Dame starts. They report to camp on July 30th. They have their first practice on July 31st. So it's one of those things where it's getting very, very close here, right? And it's pretty exciting. I know yesterday you talked about there's not a whole lot of news coming out of Big Ten Media Day, but one piece of news that came out yesterday was when Tony Petitti spoke at the beginning. He announced that the Big Ten championship game will be staying in Indianapolis through 2028. So they're 4 more years. They'd be this year and then 4 more years at least of the championship game in Indianapolis. But then he hinted that they will move it to different places across the country after that because he wants the rest of the geographical footprint to get to experience it. So I'm sure they'll probably have it in Los Angeles at some point, and they'll probably have it in Vegas. They'll probably
don't say that.
I know they'll probably have it in Denver to be centrally located, that kind of thing. So, but that was an interesting thought. Interesting statement that he made was that they are trying to expand the geographical footprint that hosts Big Ten championship. So he didn't even say football championship. So I assume he was also talking about the Big Ten tournament for men's and women's basketball and all of those things. So I'm interested in that as well.
We've got Dylan Sinn with us. Let's see if he can stick around for just a few minutes more after this, and we'll talk more about that. As that's a pretty big announcement for Indianapolis. I've talked so much about how Indianapolis is just one of the biggest and best sports cities in the country, and this is another reason why. But we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Remax and Cheryl Sizemore. For those of you in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore. Let me tell you, she will get it done for you, and she is awesome to work with. make sure you reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Don't forget Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. Back with more right after this.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us as he does each week. Dylan, busy summer, man. He covers the 10 caps up there in Fort Wayne. Of course, right now he's got Purdue and Indiana and Notre Dame. And I bring them up because the ACC is in a little bit of, flux. I don't know what you'd call it, with inner fighting going on with Florida State and Clemson wanting out because everyone else is making twice as much money as they are. But I don't see a path out for them, man. They have a bad deal. I agree with them, but you signed it. You're in, man. I just don't see a way out. That's the thing. Other than unless a judge says, well, yeah, they signed a bad deal, so I'm going to let you out.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't see a path out for them. And man, what would that do to the ACC? Because stay or go, they're losing so much ground to the SEC and the Big Ten financially.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that even if Florida State, especially Florida State at this point, because they're the ones making the most noise, even if they were to find a way to get themselves out of the ACC, and they've tried doing different things with coming up with some venture capital money or private equity money, something like that, to try to raise the money the gargantuan amount of money they would need to buy their way out of the contract. Even if they were to do that, there's no guarantee the Big Ten and the SEC would want them, right? In fact, there's been some reporting that they don't really want them, right? The SEC doesn't really need.
Well, the SEC doesn't care. They don't need them. They already have
they already have
team
Florida,
in South Carolina, and a team in Florida, and
right.
neither of those teams want that competition.
Exactly. In the Big Ten, if Florida State is not an AAU school, AAU is the academic union of research universities. It's like kind of the highest level research universities in the country. Every Big Ten school, even the ones that were just added, even Rutgers, even Nebraska, even Maryland, are AAU schools. Florida State is not. Now, the Big Ten obviously has grown and changed, and it's different than it was when its entire reputation was based on, or a large part of its reputation was based on being a high-level academic conference. It's changed a lot since then, but it has maintained its identity as a conference that has all AAU schools in it. Florida State is not one of those. And so I think it's interesting. I don't think the Big Ten would really want Florida State that much either. I don't know how much Florida State gives you. I know that it adds territory, but every Big Ten school already has kind of a Florida guy on their roster. Indiana's had no problem bringing in Florida recruits over the years. It's not like the bigger schools are struggling that much either. So
I don't know if it's recruiting, but it would give them another television area.
Market, that's true.
South Carolina is not exactly a gigantic television market, but it gives you more East Coast. And then Florida, they've got nothing in Florida, so that would give them coverage in Florida. But I don't know what you really gain from being on in Tallahassee,
right?
Unless they get more than that.
Yes, and Tony Petitti was asked specifically about it yesterday about, okay, what are the odds of future expansion? I know that Florida State, the question was asked, Florida State has tried to get out of the ACC. What are your plans for future expansion? Are there plans for future expansion? Tony Petitti basically, he didn't take the bait. He didn't say anything about Florida State. He just said, we're happy with the 18 we have right now. We're focused on making it work with these 18. We like the conference that we have, and there are no plans to change. So that there's some wiggle room there, obviously, but he didn't say anything about, well, if there's opportunities, we'll add more. We're always looking to make the conference better. He said, we are happy with the 18. We are trying to make it work with the 18. So
he's not going to say anything other than that.
He's not going to say anything other than that. That's true. That's true. But
they could be working with two teams right now as we speak, and he would say the same thing.
That's true. That's true. My impression is that things are going to be static for at least a couple more seasons, would be my guess. I don't think that Florida State and Clemson are leading the ACC in the next couple of years. I think that they stick it out. And you're right. They're falling behind. That's just kind of the reality of the situation. Compared to the SEC and the Big Ten, they are falling behind in terms of what they can offer monetarily. And that's going to be especially significant as we get into revenue sharing here starting next fall. So it's something that is going to be a problem for them, and they're going to have to make up the difference with booster money that I'm not sure either of them really has. Even Clemson obviously won 2 national championships in the 2010s. They have money. They're not a super rich school. They're not going to just be able to buy a recruiting class the way some other schools can. Florida State's the same way. Florida State has had great success over the years. They were terrific under Bobby Bowden. They won a national championship under Jimbo Fisher. They went 13-0 under Mike Norvell last year, but they're not a school that throws money around in the same way that Florida or Miami does. And so it's going to be really interesting to see these schools and how they kind of navigate, well, I guess we're stuck here, and see how that plays out, because they don't have the kind of huge donor base to fall back on. They have money, don't get me wrong, they're not poor, but they don't have a huge donor base to fall back on like a lot of the SEC and Big Ten schools do. And so I'm interested to see how that plays out for them.
Absolutely. So, with all the things that have been said and done and gone with Big Ten Media Days, Ohio State clearly a favorite again this year. No surprise there. Where is Michigan with the addition of Oregon? Oregon picked second, by the way, in the media poll, I believe. Which no surprise there. They have continuity with Dan Lanning at coach, so they're kind of they hit the ground running, so to speak. And as a matter of fact, need to pull their schedule up. Very curious as to see who all they're playing this year.
They host Ohio State in Autzen.
Oh wow!
I think that's going to be the best game of the regular season in college football. So here's my understanding of the way college football is going to work this year. This is me giving my opinion. I think Ohio State and Oregon are two of the three best teams in the country. I think that it's those two in Georgia. One of those three is going to win the national championship. Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia. I think they're just really well positioned. They were already loaded with talent. Ohio State and Oregon were, and then they added significant transfer portal talent in the offseason. Oregon brought in Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, the quarterback, to replace Bo Nix, who got drafted in the first round. They brought in Evan Stewart, the star wide receiver from Texas A&M. So they're loaded. And Ohio State has the type of roster that could be a generational, like one of the best teams we've ever seen roster. They're really, really good at just about every position except offensive line, where they're just okay. And maybe quarterback, where I think Will Howard is good. I'm not sure how great he is. We'll see. But Ohio State has skill position talent all over the place. And I think Ohio State is the best team in the country. We will see. You asked about Michigan. They were picked fourth in the poll this year. It's Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State are the top three, then Michigan. Michigan should have a top three defense in the country. Their defensive tackles, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, are the best combo at that position in the country, I believe. They're just absolute game wreckers. They have a first-round pick at corner in Will Johnson. He's the preseason defensive player of the year in the conference. They're loaded on that side of the ball. They bring back almost everyone. On offense, it's a different story. They're replacing a lot. They didn't bring in a lot in the transfer portal. They don't have a quarterback who's ever played a game, who's ever started a game before on the roster. So I am interested to see how that goes. Alex Orji is the quarterback. He's a great athlete. It's unclear whether he can really throw the ball. Obviously he can. They wouldn't be heading toward him being the starter if he couldn't. But that he was a run game package kind of quarterback last year. They brought him in for several packages over the course of the season. I think they're going to go 8-4, 9-3, somewhere in there. Michigan also has a very tough schedule. They play Texas in the non-conference in addition to Oregon, Ohio State, and Washington during the conference schedule. I think they win maybe one of those games, maybe. Probably Washington. So I think 9-3 is probably the most realistic. And that is probably on the fringes of playoff contention for them. Probably somewhere between 10th and 15th in the rankings, depending on how things shake out. And so we'll see. They are not going to be a upper echelon national championship contender again this year.
That's going to be interesting. And I don't think that Big Ten, the people at the Tony Petitti and the rest of those at Big Ten and Fox and all that could be any happier if it turned out to see Oregon and Ohio State play a rematch for the Big Ten championship, because those are probably going to be the two best teams. Although we could see Oregon and Penn State. Or Ohio State. That's the good thing, is I think that it's going to be Ohio State. And then after that, I don't know if it's going to be Oregon or Penn State or Michigan, but there's also a very good chance that there's going to be a tie with this amount of teams and no divisions. That I'm interested to see what the tiebreakers are going to be.
Yeah. Beyond head-to-head, it is going to be – I don't offhand know what the tiebreakers are. That's a really interesting question. And I think it's going to be one of those things where if head-to-head is not on the table, and with so many teams, head-to-head is going to be on the table less often than it would be, because you're not playing as many of the teams in the conference. So if Penn State – I'm not sure if Penn State plays Oregon. Let's see if they do.
But then again, you may have played a team and lost, but the other team may not have played them. So
right, exactly. So it's going to be really interesting. Oregon and Penn State don't play, right? So if both of them finish, for example, 8-1 in conference play, then what is the tiebreaker there? It's probably record of the opponent, conference record of the opponents, right? Would be my guess. And so that's a really interesting. Well, we had an easier schedule, which is great, but it hurt us a little bit in the tiebreaker. So and it's interesting because that matters, because the teams that make the Big Ten championship, not just the winner now, but also the loser, are probably going to be in the playoff, right? Those two are probably going to be in. And so that third team,
and the one that didn't, and the team that did not get to play, was not runner up, will also more than likely make the playoff.
Right. But the difference is the one that is not the third place team is probably going to have to go on the road for a playoff game, whereas the second place team is probably going to get to host, right? They're going to be 5-8. The third place team is going to be 9-12, probably in most years. And so that matters. The difference between second and third place is going to matter in this conference. And doing it the way they're doing it with no divisions really creates a potential for some chaos at the top. And I'm really fascinated by that. I like the fact that there are no divisions anymore. I like that the schedule, you're going to play all of these teams on a more regular basis. You're not stuck playing the same teams every year. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it creates intrigue at the top, even in years when you think there's going to be at least one team that's just going to kind of dominate, like Ohio State. I do think Ohio State is going to roll at least past everyone except Oregon. I think that there is still intrigue at the very top of the conference, and I'm fascinated to see that play out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it offers the opportunity for a program like Indiana to kind of build on itself. Purdue's hurting itself with its schedule, and now some of that they can't control, but some of it they can. They've got Notre Dame and an Oregon State game this year that are both odd non-conference, so that's a wicked schedule to put yourself in, and it's exactly why Indiana bought themselves out of having to play Louisville this year, because they wanted to be able to get a foothold, and it makes sense because now you look at that schedule and you're like going, whoo, man, they got a chance to get things going. So everyone that asked why that they were doing that, I'll tell you why. It's going to pay dividends now. I would be shocked if that does not pay dividends this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Purdue made this schedule. They scheduled Oregon State. They scheduled Notre Dame. They scheduled those games before they knew that the Big Ten was going to expand and go to 18 teams. They didn't know that. They didn't know that there were going to be divisions changing and things like that. They quite frankly didn't know that Jeff Brom wasn't going to be the coach. Those games were scheduled when Jeff Brom was the coach. And so they probably thought they'd be in a slightly better position than they are right now. Obviously, they're very confident in Ryan Walters. I'm not saying that at all. But it's one of those things where they didn't think they were going to have to start over with a new coach the way they did after the 2022 season when they scheduled these games. Like the Oregon State game is a kind of a return trip for a game they played, I believe, in 2019, maybe 2021, one of those two. It's been several years since they played Oregon State in West Lafayette. So these games have been scheduled for several years. They got the series with Notre Dame. They played them in 2021. That's a long-time rivalry that had kind of gone defunct. So it's interesting to see the fact that these games are scheduled so far out. It makes it difficult to kind of plan for changes in the landscape of the sport. And you're right. Indiana was like, no, we have the money to kind of buy ourselves out of a game that would not be advantageous for us. And they did it. I think that ended up being a very good decision. Yeah, you're not going to have the great non-conference home games that you would like, but that you should have 3 wins in the non-conference schedule relatively easily. There should not be any difficulty in beating Florida International or Charlotte or Western Illinois. Those should be 3 wins. And then you only need 3 in the Big Ten to get to a bowl game, which is something that you haven't done in 4 years. So there's tangible progress. Like they don't say how, when you're talking about 6 wins, they don't say how, they say how many. Did you get there? Can you go to a bowl game? So I think that Indiana did the right thing. And it would just be more difficult for Purdue just because of the way their schedule shook out.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, as always. I appreciate you, sir. What's up next for you?
Yep, I'll be in Indianapolis tomorrow, so looking forward to that. And then on Friday, we have high school football media day here in Fort Wayne. So 40 schools getting together, talking about their upcoming seasons as well. So we're getting very close to the start of high school practice in addition to that. So very excited.
That's a cool thing to have. That makes life easy, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do that every year here in Fort Wayne. It's kind of, again, 40 schools from the Northeast Indiana area just show up all at once. You can talk to anyone you want. It's pretty cool.
Sounds great. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us as always. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. Hey, we've got more coming up if you're staying with us. And if you're leaving, we'll see you tomorrow. We appreciate everybody listening on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Make sure you stay tuned after Indiana Sports Beat Radio for the Sports Rush. And we'll be back for the rest of you right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. Appreciate you being with us as always. Looking forward to Rick Bozich joining us in a little while. Today is Big Ten Football Media Days, Day 2 in Indianapolis. We'll be up there tomorrow from Lucas Oil Stadium as Indiana's Kurt Cignetti, among others, will be speaking. We'll have him on the show tomorrow as well. Looking forward to that. And seeing what Kurt has to say in his first address to the Big Ten audience, I don't think it'll be a lot different than what you've already seen, kind of a business as usual type of thing. That's how Kurt Signetti is, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So he's not going to be brash and bold like you've seen him in front of a home audience. I would not expect that, nor should you expect that. But he's not going to give any secrets away. I think he's just going to talk about how his team has worked hard, how his staff has worked hard, and how they are happy to be a part of the new Big Ten and looking forward to the games and the challenges that lie ahead for them. The thing for Indiana is they need to have success also for another reason. They have got to start growing that program. The football program has to be a solid part of the conference. That's the moneymaker for the conference. It's not basketball, it's football. And Indiana is going to have to not only grow their program for that reason, but they need to grow that stadium. I don't mean that they necessarily have to make it larger, but they're going to have a new press box. And it's not, when I say press box, it's not really for the press. They need the suites. You're going to have to get those suites in there. You're close enough to Indianapolis to where you have all those Fortune 500 companies, and there are plenty of IU related companies, ownerships, CEOs, etc., that would probably be a part of that if the program was solid. And because right now they've got those suites in the end zone, which I know that they're trying. That's all that you can do. You can't throw up a temporary trailer on top of the stadium. They're behind. They allowed themselves to get way, way behind. And schools like Purdue, they're not. Even Northwestern is trying to get ahead of the game. Yeah, they're playing on a soccer field this year, but that's because they're trying to build something nicer. And with the money that's coming in, you don't have a choice. You have to. And we've talked about that before with Rick Bozich, that, that's the original stadium from the 60s, man. So this is an opportunity, and things are set up. Like we said, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to covering football this season. I think it's going to be fun. I hope the fans for Indiana follow suit and go to the games, go into the games, and stay in the games. It's especially the students. It's like, dude, you've got nowhere you have to be, and you're walking anyway, so you don't have to deal with traffic. Hopefully they'll stick around. But we'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. Any new season ticket holders? I'm curious. Has anyone been spurred on to actually buy season tickets? Ross asking, when is Sig? Kurt Signetti speaks at Big Ten Media Days tomorrow. And we'll have him on the show tomorrow as well before that. So looking forward to that. Yeah, that would, Brian said, if Sig says Purdue sucks at the presser, that would be funny. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I truly don't. Like I said, he's going to be a little calmer, just delivering a businessman's speech, but letting people know that this is a new day for Indiana, and that's something that I believe. I believe it is a new day for Indiana. I think that they're very fortunate that Scott Dolson made a good hire in Kurt Signetti. There hasn't been a snap yet. I get that. And we'll have to wait and find out and see how that turns out. But I do. Not only is it the coach, but it's, again, I marvel at how long the critical parts of his staff have been together. It blows my mind that his defensive coordinator has been with him for 9 seasons. It's crazy. Coach Brian Haynes, and he seems to be setting roots down in Bloomington. He's out and about. That's good. That's a very good sign. The IU football coaches were very good about that, even in the past. You would see them out and about at places. And but I think that this staff is they're bought in. They're bought into being a part of that school. They're bought into being a part of that program and to grow that program and to be an integral part of the Big Ten, which it's a major undertaking. Don't kid yourself. And they see that as a challenge because they know that a lot of people are doubting them, especially people, not only some Indiana fans because it's Indiana, but especially those people outside of this coverage area, whether Ohio State or up in Michigan or in Pennsylvania or out in Iowa, all Nebraska. None of those places think that there is going to be this massive change for Indiana. But I think that a lot of those people are going to be in for a surprise because they're not aware of the things that have happened with the talent that has been brought in. And they shall see, or we all shall see, because I hope I'm not wrong as rain. I hope I'm right as rain, rather, but we don't know. And look forward to the season getting started. I would be shocked if the Indiana team does not go to a bowl. Purdue, because of their wicked schedule, if they get to a bowl, I think that is unbelievably successful. And it would, because they have a massive challenge ahead of them with two difficult non-conference games. One is at home, but against Notre Dame, the other on the road at Oregon State. So if Purdue can manage to get themselves to a bowl, then they have done a yeoman's job and should take a bow for that. We'll see. But those teams, Illinois, I mentioned earlier that Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, some of the teams, the stalwarts of the Big Ten that are looked at as bottom feeders right now, they've got to fight to stay out of that bottom. They have to fight to stay relevant. Brett Bielema, Illinois took a step back last year, in my opinion. Although they beat the snot out of Indiana, that's not saying much. But we'll see how it goes forward. Basketball will probably, let's see, when is Big Ten Media Days in basketball? Usually September, I think. It'll probably come in September. So right around the corner. It just, once things get started, it just doesn't stop. And we're not that far from camp opens in like a week. And then we're 5 weeks away from, maybe 6 weeks away from the first game. It's crazy. It's here, folks, and I'm happy about it. Looking forward to it. What is the biggest game of the Big Ten season you're looking forward to? I mean, Dylan mentioned Oregon and Ohio State going at it. There's going to be some fun games. USC, they're going to be challenged greatly this season as well. See what USC's schedule is. Lincoln Riley kind of on the hot seat a little bit, and going into the Big Ten is not exactly going to help that. But they open with LSU. Now that's a home game, but that's their opening game. Then Utah State. All right, out of their first 4 games, this is for USC. You want to talk about a tough opening act? USC opens at home with LSU. Then week 2, they have Utah State. Then they travel, and then they have a bye week. In week 4, they're at Michigan. In week 5, they're at home to Wisconsin. That's a pretty good opening stretch there. LSU, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 3 out of their first 4 games, but they do have a bye in there. They will host Penn State. Let's see. Any other ones jumping out? They will host Nebraska. Oh, and then at the end of the season, they're normal. This season, they host the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame as well. Washington, of course, they go there, but that should not be. We'll see what Washington is like, but that's the schedule for. We'll see, but looking forward to can USC beat Oregon out? I mean, and there's nothing that the Big Ten would love more than to see a West Coast, Midwest battle for the title. Ohio State versus Oregon. They would love that. That's exactly what the TV people would love to see happen. And that's a very good possibility since those are the top two picked teams. Now, what they don't want to see is another rematch of Ohio State, Michigan is always a good game. It's always going to draw. But I don't know that you want that in a rematch for the Big Ten title. Maybe they do. What would draw more, say an Ohio State, Michigan game or Ohio State, USC? I would imagine the TV folks would like to have, or Oregon would like to have that West Coast audience. If there's no West Coast team in it, there's not going to be a lot of desire for those folks to tune into that game. And that's what they would dearly love to see, a good Oregon team or a good USC team against, I'm saying Ohio State. Who knows? It could be Penn State. You never know. But that's going to be spectacular. That's like a bowl game. That's a national championship semifinal game that you're going to get for the Big Ten championship now. No more Ohio State beating up Wisconsin. Sorry, Wisconsin fans, or Iowa, whomever it may have been from the East and the West divisions, which it's good to see that go away finally. That's another reason why it's so good to see those divisions go away. That, in addition to the fact that divisions were pointless because all of your games mattered. It didn't matter about how you played in the division. It was, everything was counted. So I'm like, well, that's pointless to have divisions, which it was. And finally they got rid of those. Thankfully, good to see that happening. So we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Our good friend Rick Bozich from WDRB.com will join us next here on the program. And we look forward to talking to him.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indiehomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this hump day. Appreciate you being with us as always. Hope your day is going well. Looking forward to hopefully talking to Rick Bozich here in a little bit. What is new with you guys? Are you following along on the basketball tournament? Assembly Ball knocked out last night, and their run is over. And Ryan asking what happened with Race and Devontae not playing last night. Not sure. I know Race, I was, like I said, I was surprised Race Thompson was able to play. He's been working hard on rehabbing, and he was able to get back. Good to see him do that, to make it back and play, because he's trying to get to where he can go on with that. Brian's pointing out that Juwan Morgan did not play either, although it turned into a very good game as Assembly Ball made a heck of a run to try to get back. And they did. And someone earlier mentioned they didn't force overtime because it's the Elam ending, but it made it a very exciting time for the fans that were there to see it, and looking forward to seeing what they can do next year. It's difficult to, hopefully they can keep that going. Because getting those guys together, as you see this year, how difficult it was, not knowing who was going to be available, when they're going to be available, and keeping them in the game. It's not easy. A lot of those teams that you see with alumni teams, Indiana, again, they have a lot of guys that are playing in the NBA. What, 8, 9 guys right now, alumni that are NBA players? Those guys can't play with that. Joined now by our good friend Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Rick, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm a couple seconds late here. I had to watch Jeff Brom speak at the ACC Football Media Day and put up a real quick story on what he had to say. So sorry about that.
That's okay. We were talking about the ACC earlier, and unfortunately for them, the biggest storyline is not different teams and who's going to win. Is Florida State and Clemson going to get out, which I just don't see a path for them to get out. I'm like, I get it. You got a bad deal, but you signed it and you're in. I just don't see a path for them to get out of there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what their end game is. I mean, reading between the lines, it didn't seem like SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey was open to bringing them in. He likes a 16-team league. They've already got Florida and Auburn, which pretty much covers the territory that Florida State's in terms of a media market. Tallahassee's not a big media market anyway. And although Clemson has been a national brand, they haven't always been a national brand, and that's not a big media market either.
And they're kind of on the fade out a little bit right now.
They're fading, right? And I don't see them as fitting for the Big Ten either, because academically, I don't think they're the caliber school that the Big Ten prefers to have in the conference. I see the Big Ten potentially being more interested in Virginia and North Carolina. Those are bigger fish, in my opinion. But maybe what they're trying to do, just by being so public about this dispute and embarrassing the league, is get them to change some of the rules where they get to keep more of the money. They're trying to get a deal where it's not an equal split for every team, that because they're these quote football powers, they deserve more of the cash. And I don't know whether, the rest of the schools in the league will go for that. And it's going to be weird enough this year. It's going to be weird in the Big Ten because you got the 4 West Coast schools, but I mean, it's even weirder for the ACC because of being so much farther southeast, to have Miami and Florida State and Georgia Tech in a league with Stanford and California, and then you throw a Texas school in there. I mean, SMU doesn't have a school within a 2-hour flight of them.
Yep. Well, that and the fact that there's just, how far is SMU in the Dallas market?
SMU is in Dallas, correct.
So that gives them a good TV market, but
nominally, I'm not sure how big SMU football is in Dallas, but yeah, nominally it does.
And there's Notre Dame is connected, but they're still one of the only teams that can ride on their name without really having done anything in a while. And it's starting to get amazing. So I'm like, okay, the four horsemen are not floating in anytime soon. The golden boy, Paul Horning, he's not strapping it up. He's not putting the leather helmet on anytime soon. So I don't understand how they're able to continue to carry such weight as they do.
I mean, I think they're still riding on the very end of Lou Holtz. I mean, that's the last time they were really, really good, when they had Rocket Ishmael and Jerome Bettis and all those dudes. But yeah, you're right. Any fans who are 30 years and younger have to be asking their dad or their uncle or their grandfather, what's the big deal about Notre Dame? Why does everybody treat them so special, right? And if you go to a game there, and I don't know if you've been to games there, but I've been to a bunch of games there. It's a great atmosphere. It's a great spectacle. And through their athletic director, Jack Swarbrook, who isn't there anymore, I think he retired, and the strength of their alumni base, they have connections in the media world that have enabled them to have that contract they've had for now 20 years on NBC, where they're the prime Saturday entertainment on 6 weekends or 7 weekends a year on NBC. I don't know how long that's going to last, but I remember I remember when Notre Dame was a big deal, but younger people now have to be saying, what's the big deal about Notre Dame?
Yeah, and you mentioned NBC. They're part of getting a little bit of that Big Ten package. So They're going to have some Big Ten games, and I don't know exactly what their schedule is, but I was just talking about how interesting it is going to be now, because you're going to have in-season games of Michigan versus UCLA and Ohio State versus USC and Penn State versus Oregon, and on and on. And then the Big Ten championship is in essence going to be very similar to a national championship semifinal game. You're going to have an Ohio State against Oregon or something similar, which I know the Big Ten and Fox and all that would love to see an Ohio State or a Michigan or a Penn State against an Oregon or USC, so they can get that West Coast audience.
Yeah. And the Big Ten, I think, is taking the right strategy of a lot of teams aren't playing Notre Dame anymore, and just kind of squeeze them out of the media platforms as many as they can. The Notre Dame has has made this connection with the ACC. I think any rational person would say if they should be in any conference, it should be in the Big Ten. I mean, they're right in the middle of Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue.
They play
Indiana.
almost virtually every team in the conference were prior to the 4 joining.
That's correct. They used to play Michigan State, Michigan every year, played Ohio State. They've always played Purdue every year for a long time. They played Northwestern occasionally.
Indiana even has them on the schedule in like 6 years.
Again?
Yeah.
They're coming back on? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I remember they played them once, I think, in the Hoosier Dome, the old RCA Dome. Anyway, I think the big thing with Notre Dame is nobody there at the administration wants to be the administration that gets written down in the history books and remembered for being the one who put Notre Dame in a conference. They've always viewed themselves as being above everybody else, being special, having something nobody else has. And, for a long time they did. They don't anymore. But no athletic director wants to go down as being, I'm the guy who put them in a conference. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they wouldn't play in bowl games. Do you remember that? I mean, they didn't. Yeah, they wouldn't used to play in bowl games. So
It's crazy.
They're clinging to a reality that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia. You could name 5 or 6 more have exceeded Notre Dame as football powers.
Yeah, it's with all the money that is being spent by these networks, they're going to start. There's going to have to be cuts because if it's not really bringing something back in return, and as more, say the Big Ten, the SEC get more expensive, they're going to have to. Somebody's going to get cut, I think, and I just don't see Notre Dame's value in their home games. Yeah, because they have a great schedule. They have to have a good schedule, but they've got so many of those ACC games, which aren't that great. Their best games are non-conference games.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're a unique case. They don't go to any media day. They're not at ACC media day, even though they are at ACC media day in basketball. They're not at ACC media day in football.
That makes zero sense because basketball doesn't do much and football is the reason that they're there.
I mean, they try and be they're a big deal in ACC women's basketball. They have been a big deal in ACC baseball. I mean, but it's just like, it's Notre Dame football. We're not going to associate with you, except for the 1 year of COVID when they needed the ACC and the ACC bent a knee and let them in. Remember that? And played an ACC schedule that year and let them play in the ACC championship game. And they might have even gotten in the playoff that year. They got in the playoff 1 year when Kelly was there, or 1 or 2 years. And, I think the ACC did that. Like, okay, this will show them it's really not that bad to be in a league. And it is that there are advantages to it. And maybe they'll come and join our league because we really need them to keep up with the SEC and the Big Ten. But no, it didn't happen. So it might happen now. I really believe that Jack Swarbrick, the guy that just resigned, did not want his final act as Notre Dame athletic director to be, I'm the one who, put Notre Dame in a conference. The new person who I think might have come from like a TV. He might have worked at NBC or something. He was some kind of a TV guy, I think. And we'll see what happens. The new reality will keep closing in on him every year.
Yeah, we'll see or not. No, I'm not hating Five Lefts. They can do whatever they want to do. It just I think it's time for them. I think it would make them better if they were in a conference. I think it would be more of a challenge. It would challenge them to be better and more. And not that they don't want to be good in all sports, but I think just being in a conference, especially like the Big Ten, it fits them. It would be good for both parties, but we'll find out. Speaking of football, the Big Ten Media Days, of course, going on as we've talked about right now at Lucas Oil Stadium. Tomorrow, Curt Cignetti will speak. Purdue's already spoken, but you've got 4 new teams in there with USC, UCLA, which they're there today. Washington, Oregon, also, I think they are there tomorrow. But Curt Cignetti will be on with us tomorrow as well. But I'm not expecting to hear anything that we haven't probably already heard
from Kurt Cignetti that other than, he's looking forward to the challenge of being in the Big Ten and building a program at Indiana and turning them into a team that is talked about not being in the bottom four?
Yeah, you can ask him about that one media poll that came out. I guess had him picked 17th. He's still going to be battling the perception from outside the IU bubble that IU football is, several rungs below the rest of the Big Ten, even, middle of the pack. And I guess other questions you would ask him is just in terms of with all those new pieces together, how long will it take them to kind of feel like they have cohesiveness as a team? That's an entirely new team, man. They've come in from so many different places, and
well, it's kind of been a new team, less for him than it is for Indiana fans.
How many James Madison guys? 10 or 11?
Yeah, it's a good amount, and the entire, and most of the coaching staff.
Yeah. The thing that I like about it, they seem like you do have good talent in the receiver room.
That's in the Big Ten, supposedly.
Yeah. What's going to happen at running back? When IU was good, they had good running backs. They had Tevin Coleman. They had what was the kid? Jordan Howard, was that his name?
Jordan Howard. Yep.
Then they had even Stevie Scott was he wasn't spectacular, but he was dependable and solid, especially around the goal line. How's that running game going to be? And the one spot where they do have continuity is returning offensive line coach Bob Bosted. He did a good job of keeping two guys from going in the portal. Kadich, the center, I believe, and Carter Smith, the offensive tackle, is that offensive line, which has been below average to abysmal over the last 2 or 3 years. How are they going to be?
Yeah, I think that with the history of Kurt Cignetti's offense, the running back room, they have a full running backs room, but he's a thrower, man. His team threw for, while it's not a ton of yards, 3,700 yards last year. The running backs, his top two running backs, who are now at Indiana, combined for only 6 touchdowns. His tight end had that many touchdowns. So he's more likely to throw the ball around the end zone in the red zone than he is to run it. So I think the running game is going to be a nice complement to his offense, which is what it has been in the past. And having the receiving core that Indiana does, it's stacking up to be positive for Indiana. I just think it's going to be a positive thing. And with UCLA being one of those teams picked to finish way down low as well, I keep talking about that potential of Indiana being able to run the table on the first half of their schedule. 4 out of their first games are at home. The only one it's not is at UCLA, potentially a winnable game there. And then you go play at Northwestern. So there's an opportunity to start the season on an unbelievable high note for what Indiana fans are accustomed to.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to ask him about the quarterback situation. I think the assumption generally has been that is it Rourke? It's Curtis Rourke?
Curtis Rourke, yes.
From Ohio University would be that he would be the starter. He's a veteran guy who was the MAC Player of the Year, I believe, in 2022. Battled some injuries last year. Most people thought he's going to be the guy, but then didn't Taven Jackson play really well in the spring game? And kind of turn some heads. I mean, what's he looking for in a quarterback? Does he want somebody with a guy who has a really high ceiling? Does he want a guy who's consistent and doesn't turn the ball over? Does he want a guy who can maybe run the ball a little bit? I mean, how much of an open competition is it really going to be at quarterback, or has he already really said that Curtis Rourke is going to be the guy?
I have not heard that, but I don't think that's going to be something that I've said this in the past. I don't think Indiana fans are going to have to wait until the snap of the ball against Florida International to find out who that is. But I don't, to my knowledge, that has not been made public yet. They haven't even started fall camp. But I don't know when he'll do that, but that's a good question. I'll try to get in tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. I guess I saw Jackson at his very best. The best game he played was against Louisville, And then he kind of got shuffled aside for Sorsby because I think they had to play Sorsby because he was a better runner with the problems they had running the ball with their offensive line. But my assumption is Rourke's going to be the guy. And then you've got, Jackson next. And then I guess third would be Cherry, the true freshman who's highly acclaimed, 4-star recruit. I think there's another guy in there too. And then there's Mendoza, the quarterback coming up from Florida, who decommitted to James Madison and came in. So they've got decent numbers. They've got guys who've been productive at other schools. And as we've talked about all summer, his approach at doing things was different than Tom Allen's. Tom Allen got a lot of guys from Power 5 schools who were maybe higher rated recruits who went other places and didn't really perform. And they came to Indiana, and a few of them came through, but a lot of them didn't. Whereas I think Cignetti's been more willing to take guys from maybe not a Power 5 school who have shown they were productive where they were and put up big numbers and said, you did that there. I believe you can do this here. And my system, come join me. And a lot of guys have done that. I mean, it's not just James Madison guys. Don't they have guys from like Old Dominion or the other teams that were in his conference? He's got some other guys from those leagues, and
along with Wake Forest and North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. Ohio University, Mid-American Conference schools where you go to get your quarterback instead of taking the backup from, TCU or whatever. And I just throw him in there because that's where the kid that was going to play for Tom Allen, when he decommitted at the end and really messed him up in terms of the quarterback room, I think he's going to start that this year. Remember that kid Hoover or whatever his name was?
Yep. He was on the show. I remember him talking to him about how he learned to play golf during COVID in the backyard, just hitting chip shots, and he shot it like an 82 on his first golf outing.
He flipped on signing day, right?
Was it signing day? I think it was.
It was day before.
Was it that late?
And then they ended up getting Sorsby instead, and Sorsby ended up, being a decent player. He's going to be the starter at Cincinnati this year. That's what's crazy. And then what's his name left and got some NIL money. The kid before that, I can't think of his name right now, but we've got the kid from Missouri who went to Bowling Green.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, he got him some NIL money. So, but we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. Rick Bozich from WDRB is with us right now. Back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Hump Day, Wednesday. Glad to have you along. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com with us as well. And Rick, the TBT, the basketball tournament, rolling on. It will be going on without IU's alumni team as they were knocked off last night. Louisville plays tonight. Kentucky, they also have their regional game to play.
Yeah, they won last night. They blew out Marshall by like 30 points.
Oh, yeah. It was like 90 to 30 or something. It was crazy. That was almost ugly, man.
Yeah, that was surprising too, because Marshall's pretty good. I think they made it to the Final Four last year.
That's Indiana Assembly Ball. They lost to Eberlin Drive, but Eberlin Drive has been around since the inception of the TBT, so they're a veteran team.
Yes, they are. They're very good. They're very strong. They play the way you have to play to win in the TBT, which is they played really good defense. They put a bigger defender on Yogi Ferrell, made it tougher for him to get shots off, and they drove the ball to the rim. They were more physical, and the IU team really never was healthy. It wasn't really an IU team. It was Yogi Ferrell was pretty much the IU presence. Miller Kopp played quite a bit last night, but Juwan Morgan got hurt and didn't really play like the last two games.
Yeah.
Devontae Green barely played, and he wasn't even there last night. Did he get hurt or just lose interest?
I have no idea. It's hard to tell with this. It's a weird deal. I think it's hard. I know that Xavier Johnson was interested in playing. So it's hard. It's hard to. That's why I was trying to explain earlier to IU fans is that this is difficult. That's why it's taken this long to get a team put together. IU has a ton of guys that are playing in the NBA right now, in addition to guys that are playing overseas. But to get them all together, it's difficult. And as you can see, even when you get them, it's difficult.
I'll tell you this, just so people have a perspective on it. I was sitting in the end zone Monday night at the Louisville game talking to one of the assistant coaches from the team that won the second game and actually plays Louisville tonight. And I said, do these guys get money other than what they would get if they win? And they said their team really doesn't. All they get is money for meals and a place to stay. It's not like they're getting paid to play. So that's the first thing. And I said, well, what about insurance? And he says, you're on your own for that. So it's like, if you've got a career in Europe and you come playing this thing and you get injured, that's a pretty big deal. You have to have your own insurance policy to protect you against suffering a significant injury that would stop you from going back and playing another season. So you really got to want to do it. It's got to be an internal drive of this is really important to me. I want to have fun and enjoy the experience. And for some guys, that's really not enough.
Yeah, if they can, if they're close to winning a game, they can run out and put their Pumas on, and if they hit the winning shot, get $1,000, some pocket change. But
then I heard on TV the other night when that guy made it for IU, well, you can take your team out to dinner. Well, I mean, if he's taking his team out to dinner at St. Elmo's, then it's going to be a net loss for him.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to be owing. Brian, you're right. It's kind of glorified pickup games. That's kind of what it is. But it's summer. There's nothing else to do. So, 5 less.
Well, it'll be a big deal. If Louisville wins tonight, they play. If Louisville wins tonight, they play Kentucky next Monday night in Freedom Hall, and I guarantee you they're going to set the TBT attendance record.
Oh, I will promise you. And that's another thing. Louisville's been drawing well at Freedom Hall. As a matter of fact, haven't they drawn well as they did during the regular season last year for some games?
The crowd on Saturday was larger than the crowd at many of the regular season games. Correct. It was a little bit less. I think Monday night it went down to 4,000 something, but on Saturday it was close to 6,000. It was the fourth largest TBT crowd of all time. I don't think it'll be huge tonight because it's a Wednesday night. It'll be good. I don't think it'll be huge, but they'll have 4 days to promote it. And they'll be playing, if they win, they'll play Kentucky here next Monday, and that they'll get the record, I think, is 7,202 for the TBT. They will break that. And it's in Freedom Hall, and you've been in there. The lower bowl is mainly full, and it feels like the crowd feels like it's bigger than the numbers say it is.
Yeah, it's a great place. That's still a great place to watch a game. I mean,
it is.
Of course, it's changed only really once over several years when they made there was just one main seating back in the day, and then they added those suites in and changed that a little bit. But it's still a good place to watch a game, man. And there's been some history, a lot of history there. You had UCLA play there. You had NCAA championships there. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played there, I believe, and then his UCLA team played there. So
Kareem won 2 titles there.
That's amazing.
I mean, the Kentucky Colonels won an ABA title there. Darrell Griffith played there. Wes Unseld played there. I remember watching Ralph Sampson played in there. A lot of when Louisville, you remember how Denny Crum used to schedule. He'd schedule these really good non-conference opponents. So, yeah, it's a very historic building and has been. Used to be the Kentucky State High School Championships were played there. The history is heavy in that building, and Bellarmine still plays there now, so it's still used, for Bellarmine basketball. So it's a good place to play, and I hope Louisville wins tonight so we have that U of L UK matchup.
That's going to be crazy. What do you think it will be from, we're talking from a crowd size that's been like 6,000 for Louisville so far, but that game, that's probably going to be up to around 8,000, I bet.
It'll be 8 to 10, yeah, because they'll have 5 days to promote it. And they've been real cooperative. I mean, they've come into the station and been on the news and helped talk about it. They've done public appearances trying to get people to come to the games. And unlike in Indianapolis, where, you got people talking about Colts and everything else, this has been pretty dominant in the sports conference. The games are on the radio. I mean, there's a local radio stations carrying the games. So it's the talk of the town.
Yeah, and it's something good for Louisville because this coming off of the season they had and going into the season they're expecting a big change as well. So next year could be fun for everyone. Back to the days of what I call the Bermuda Triangle of Indiana, Louisville, and Kentucky being good. Kentucky coming back onto Indiana's schedule. It's next season?
Not this season, next season.
Yeah, the next season away. But it seems to be kind of coming together at the right time.
Yeah, it is. New coaches at Kentucky and at Louisville, kind of trying to energize the program. Louisville ready to start winning again. Haven't won consistently since Rick Pitino was here. He left in 2017. And Kentucky ready to move on from John Calipari and doing things in a little bit different way, not being as obsessed with getting guys who are going to be NBA stars, still having a talented team, but maybe having some guys that stay around for a few years and concentrating on winning a championship at Kentucky instead of getting in the first round of the NBA draft. And then, as you mentioned, IU coming back onto Kentucky's schedule. That'll be fun. I mean, it was interesting Monday night at the game. I mean, Pat Kelsey, the Louisville coach, was at the game. Donovan Mitchell flew in from New York to be at the game. They introduced him. Jeff Brom was at the game Saturday and again on Monday. And I think if he can get a private flight back in time from ACC Media today, he's going to be there tonight. Daryl Griffith's at the game. I mean, people in the Louisville Athletic Department have embraced this thing and made it they're trying to use it as they should use it to build interest back in Louisville basketball. Whereas I think the thing at Hinkle, because IU wasn't running it, it was Butler, I think, running it, and you got Butler and Purdue and IU there. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, and it is, and they're using it to their great advantage. And Louisville's a great basketball town, no doubt. I mean, always up there as one of the TV audience leaders when the NCAA tournament comes around. Part of that is because, you've got Southern Indiana. Like I said, you've got the convergence there, the fandom of all three of those teams I just mentioned, Indiana, Louisville, and Kentucky, all right down in that area. So it's one of the most unique areas in the country. I mean, North Carolina doesn't have that. I don't think they've got North Carolina Duke, but they don't have the market size that I think that we have for like Southern Indiana, Louisville type of thing.
They don't have the variety. I mean, the thing about this place is, and it's one thing I've said, one reason I've stayed here as long as I have, and Carolina's great, but it's all Duke, North Carolina, and NC State. If you're here, you got Louisville, which used to be in Conference USA, and then went to the Big East, and they're now in the ACC. You got Kentucky from the SEC. You got Indiana in the Big Ten. You've got a great viewing spot for the three big leagues. And plus, I mean, you got Cincinnati right down the road. They're now in the Big 12. You got Xavier and Butler in the Big East. I mean, this is the central point really of college basketball. This is the place right here. It's just.
Did you see our Olympic scan? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you just have to get Indiana and Louisville back up to being what they used to be, as we remember the way it was in the 80s and in the early 90s, when 70s, 80s, and 90s, when this was unquestioned the best place to be.
Yeah, hopefully it is heading back there. It's looking like that, and we'll certainly see as the next couple of seasons fall out. But it appears to be that. Did you see the Olympic scandal? And of all places, Canada, friendly, quiet Canada. There's women's soccer coaches had a drone go over someone's practice, and I think that their coaches ended up getting kicked out. But Canada, friendly, quiet Canada, got caught cheating in the Olympics already, and the Olympics haven't even started.
That immediately makes me think of which is going to be the first college football team to get caught doing that, because if they're doing it for Canadian soccer, they're going to be doing that other places. Who can fly a drone? Who can make it unobtrusive and not be spotted? And who can get us some good practice video?
The funny thought. I mean, I'm surprised that didn't come up last year with Michigan's deal. They didn't do that. He may have had a shot to get
somebody inside the stadium.
He was on the sideline, baby, right on the sideline. What's coming up next for you?
TBT tonight, 7:00. Louisville goes for. Last year they won 2 games. This is the round where they got beat. So this will be big for me to see if they can get to the game against Kentucky, which will be huge. And that means one of the local teams will make it to Philadelphia for the finals if that happens. So that's it. And today, obviously, Eric Crawford and Tyler Griever from our station are in Charlotte. Louisville has Jeff Brom there, as well as 3 football players. And then tomorrow you got IU up in Indianapolis for IU Football Media Day.
Yep, looking forward to that. Also this week, Braylon Mullins released his top 10. How about this top 10? Of course, Indiana, Alabama, Michigan, Tennessee, Purdue, North Carolina, Duke, UConn, Kentucky, and Kansas.
It's everybody who's anybody. He can go wherever he wants to go. It's obvious. So.
I mean, yeah, that is a list, who's who list of college basketball. Of course, he's one of Indiana's top targets. Michigan, I think Michigan is going to surprise some people, Rick. Dusty May is going to do a great job recruiting. And think they're going to surprise some people this year.
Could be. I don't know who he got out of the portal, but he's a good coach. I'm sure they'll be good, and he'll get his share of recruits. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter.
That's good. Looking forward to it. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. I appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Have a good week.
You betcha, brother. You too. Rick Bozich joining us here, and look forward to talking to him each and every week. And we'll look forward to talking to him next week again. Robert, he did have his neon green shirt on. Looks like he's ready to he may have to go flag some traffic. Brian says that handball and archery start tomorrow for the Olympics. Got to get that. Well, at least there's no curling. Soccer and rugby do start today. So I guess you won't have to worry about the Canadian coaches, though. So, yeah. Man, why would you do that? Seriously. The Olympics? Canada, come on. The Olympics? Why? Can't believe that. Just a little more than shocking. But, man, it's been a fun day. Big thanks to Dylan Sinn, of course, as usual, for joining us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, as always. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. We're grateful to have you guys. Looking forward to tomorrow, as we should be coming to you from Lucas Oil Stadium for day 3 and the last day of the Big Ten Football Media Days. Kurt Signetti will be speaking. He'll also be on here with us tomorrow as well. So until tomorrow, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.